Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lifestyle with Dr. Moby. I'm Dr. Moby, and today we are honored with great guest Stephenie Zamora. Let's welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming to our show. She's based in Colorado, and then we'll be learning from her about lifestyle coaching as well as business coaching. So, tell us about yourself. How did your journey start?
Yeah, so I always purpose is my purpose. I'm really passionate about purpose, which simply put is being who you're here to be and doing the work you're here to do. And that came from my own personal journey of trying to figure out why I was here. I'm one of those people that feels like I was born at the wrong time on the wrong planet. So it's been this constant search for who am I and what do I want to do in the world? What is my work in the world? So my background is in graphic design. I still
Mhm.
do graphic design and branding, but went to school for design, started a design business, and went through the quarter life crisis, which for those that aren't familiar, it's like a midlife crisis, but in your early to mid 20s, and just started questioning even more deeply. Like, I had skill and talent for design, but it didn't feel like that was the thing I was here to do, and just really went on this seeking journey and found personal development work and coaching and books and programs, and started writing about what I was going through and
Mhm.
began coaching other people going through the quarter life crisis. And everything has grown very organically since then. All of my clients at the time figured out what they were passionate about and wanted to start businesses. So I started business coaching since I had been running my own businesses. And from there, I went through my own very sudden and traumatic loss, which left me with PTSD, and that PTSD led me into a abusive relationship, and all of that combined just brought up a whole slew of health issues and anxiety and lots of things I had to learn how to navigate. So I learned more than I ever wanted to know about what it takes to really heal and rise up and come back after these really challenging chapters. And my business has continued to reflect that. I've since written books about healing and growth. I've launched different programs. So that's my journey in a nutshell. And my business, like I said, has really reflected everything that I've personally experienced and what people have asked me for.
Mhm. Well, thank you for first of all sharing, and it means a lot, and also it takes a lot of courage to, somebody who has gone through. Now we can, of course, learn from it and from you, but a person who goes through that is, remarkable, and then to share that for others to learn in a positive way, and then kind of get positive message out, and first, congratulate that you are over it and that you conquered it pretty much, so which is great.
Yeah, and I would love to pay that forward to all the people before me that went through hard things and shared, because I learned so much from them. And if they hadn't been willing to put themselves and their stories out there, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's like this ripple effect that we all give to each other.
Mhm. And that is true. And when you mentioned about a few times is the quarter life crisis, and it's funny, we used to first have only midlife crisis, but and now I think this you're the second podcaster so which I interviewed, and then they used the word quarter life crisis, because I had one. She was also a teenager, and she's quarter life coach. I said, what is quarter life thing? I said, when did start going down from midlife to quarter life, and
Yeah.
maybe now the next thing we'll hear is 1 month, right? Or so I said, wow, it's amazing. Things have changed. I didn't know that. But it's
Yeah.
I think it's a quite common term now people using, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of it was, our generation became kind of disillusioned with life a lot earlier because we thought we would follow in the footsteps of our parents, who it seemed to flow a little more easily, which isn't to say that they didn't have trauma or hard things or didn't feel lost at times, but it from the outside seems like our parents' generation had an easier time going to school and then going to college and then figuring out their career and starting families and doing all the things right. So it took a little longer for them to stop and say, wait a minute, I don't know if this is who I am or if this is the life that I really want. Whereas we started asking those questions a lot younger because we went to school and we got our education. We tried to get out in the world and it wasn't what we thought it would be. And I think that forced a lot of people at a much younger age to be like, well, what is it that I really want to be doing? And is this all there is? Is this all life is that I go to work and pay the bills and start a family? Like, what about my passions and my creative projects and my big dreams? And so I think part of that is just the times that we came up in.
Mhm, mhm. And it is also, I had one discussion with one of the podcaster, and they talk about most misunderstood new generation. Like most things, people have misconceptions about them.
Yeah,
Is that they are not as responsible, and then they, like you are expressing, that we feel that that we had difficult time in navigating through all this, and now with COVID, imagine this generation what they will have, what
absolutely.
kind
And I almost think the younger generations, there'll be less of it because more of us, including older generations, are doing this work of asking these hard questions and personal development and growth and healing. And my hope is that that starts to seep into the education system and how we parent and everything so that maybe people just have a better chance earlier on of knowing who they are and what they really want.
Okay, so you think there is some idea that some of folks out there, they have so many. Is the reason they don't know where they want to go, or is that they have a lot of avenues, or is that they themselves don't know where they are in that geography?
I think it's a mix. I think, one of my passions is really taking this work and learning how we can, like the work that I do around finding and living your purpose and figuring out how can we take it into the education system? How can we take it into corporations? How can we teach it to parents who maybe haven't done that work for themselves yet? So it's natural for them to incorporate it into their parenting. I think my personal belief is that we come into this life knowing who we are, like it's inherently inside of us. It just
Mhm,
never has a chance to fully develop and express because we're dropped into a family system that is operating on a certain set of beliefs, which are often rooted in unresolved grief and trauma over generations and generations. And
mhm,
then we're sent off into an education system, which is designed by nature to churn all of us out in the same way. We know the same things and we're ready for college. And so it's like this stacking of systems that are designed to not support us in our unique expression and who we are. And I mean, they're not even really designed to support us in the different ways that we learn or we need to learn, let alone to identify, oh, this is the type of person I am. And this is what I'm really passionate about. And this would be the avenue that's best for me to take for so many reasons, including my own sanity and happiness. And so I think for some people, it's a lot of different things and not really understanding passion and purpose and how to live it. But I also don't think that the systems that this world is basically functioning on really support us in being who we are and then cause further trauma and cause us to feel depressed and anxious and to get lost very easily. And that's my personal, I can get really ranty about that.
No, I love it. I love what you were saying and talking, and I was trying to make a connection with my few other guests, which we had discussion on this, and this is a very important topic. I think, first of all, education system, and us, my generation, and I think they were more focused on producing prototypes. So they want the same thing. So they would say, okay, just duplicate, duplicate. But problem is with that producing prototypes is, yeah, that things are changing dramatically. Look at, for example, COVID. This situation is a disaster for many levels. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not just disaster because of virus only. It's disaster of our education system, our healthcare system, our economics, everything. Okay, so look at where we are right now. We are doing Zooms and talking. Now, this technology was there before, right?
Yep.
But they didn't want to use it. They did not want to say anything. They Because reason is what? What was the reason? Reason is just they want to continue same thing. They should have. done Zoom and all this way back, okay. You don't do things when you have emergency, okay. So then you are just panicking, you don't know what is going. Same stands for mRNA vaccines. We have this technology developed 30 years ago, okay, now. And what happened, why it wasn't done? Because number one, because we were doing 1900 vaccine kind of theory or mentality, and we want to just continue with that. This is where disaster happens, okay. So then, the viruses and all other rest of the world or everything worldly, they don't wait for us to give us, okay, do this. No, no, but it's going to multiply and it's going to kill us, okay, kill a lot of people, because our technology way lags way behind it, okay.
Yeah.
Same, I was just stunned, because I was with lot of, I served with lot of industries, and when we would talk about telework, when we would talk about things, they would frown and they will say no, absolutely no. Okay. Now look what they have to do it now, right? So then look, now it's already developing. Same for doctors. I mean, we are seeing patients. They would make patients come to clinic and sit on those old-fashioned chairs and all the why?
Hmm.
Why we had to do that? Okay. So same. So anybody who would speak against it, it will be flagged and said, oh, they're just bad. So where I see that connection is your generation and probably next. They could feel that they wanted some creativity. They wanted something new out of it,
Yeah.
but they never got it because we would flag you and say, you are rebellious. You should just listen and be a prototype of us, not because we feel comfortable with this system working, not your ideas, right?
Yeah, there's definitely human nature, and in some of the older generations, and all humans get caught up in this trap is we want to stick with what's known and familiar. And if it's working, don't fix it if it ain't broken, is the
Yeah.
common saying. And the younger generations are starting to see the implications of that, and it's going to affect
Mhm.
our lives and our children's lives. And we want to stop things before they get to that breaking point where there's a point of no return and we can't resolve things. And now we're scrambling with
Yeah.
these disasters. And we're seeing a lot of that, with the weather patterns changing. And,
Yeah.
where I am, we've had historical wildfires, which are caused by storms that are lightning but no precipitation, which, there's just all this stuff happening. And so it's a common point of tension for humans, which we have within ourselves every time we try to grow and change. And we see within the generations and different viewpoints of
Mhm.
we like the known and familiar. We know we can do this and survive it and it's comfortable and we can succeed, but we're not able to innovate from that space. We're not able to look ahead and say, well, what kind of infrastructure changes do we need in place to take care of future generations and to prepare for things that may happen? And yeah.
Yeah, no, no, that makes sense when you were saying that just struck me. So I thought wanted to. So let's talk a little bit about your. Stephanie does a lot of business coaching too. So tell me a little bit about that experience so far.
Yeah. So everything I do is really, again, rooted in purpose. The people that I work with primarily, we talk about how do you make money and get yourself out there and start a movement and sell your products and services, but it's very much anchored in who are you in this life and what is your work and your contribution that you're here to make. And how do we align your business with that so that you feel the most fulfilled and that you're really doing what you're here to do, because my lane is very different than your lane is very different than someone else's. And when we can show up fully expressed and contribute in the way that we're meant to, that's when we can have the most impact. And that's when we feel the most alive and joyful and happy with what we're doing. And
Mhm.
I've also spent a lot of time over the last 5, 6 years now studying what it takes to make the impossible happen, because so much of what we want to create for ourselves in our life and in our business or in our growth and healing in our bank accounts, in our health. It feels impossible. And the thing that makes it impossible is actually the same thing that's allowed us to succeed as much as we have.
Mhm.
And so, really, my work is anchored in, let's root out your subconscious strategies and winning strategies, like your subconscious programming that again keeps you in the known and familiar.
Mhm.
And how do we learn a new way of being in the world? How do we become an opening and a clearing for the things that we want to first become possible?
Mhm.
And then, even once they're possible, possibility is not a promise, it's a call to action. So, how do we take a completely different type of action and move towards the thing we want while also becoming magnetic for it? And it can sound very woo woo, very out there, but it's very much rooted in, I feel, science. And maybe we don't fully understand the science of it, but we live in a very vibrational, frequency based universe. And when we can anchor into a new way of being and a new set of beliefs and start engaging with the world in a different way, that shift gets reflected back to us and everything kind of reconfigures around us. So I work with a lot of subconscious programming and winning strategies to free ourselves, because when we think we're stuck, we're actually the one that's keeping us stuck. It's not external circumstances. And there are lots of systems and lots of things out in the world that make it a lot harder for all of us, as well as some people in particular. And I'm not negating that. I don't want to at all dismiss that that's a reality. But a
Mhm.
big, huge factor in how we start to create change, it starts internally. And so that's what a lot of my work is rooted in.
Very nice, very nice. So this is your some of the brand audit that you do, right? With position.
Yeah. So my business, like I said, is about purpose, and we help people at all points on that journey. I've built up this big body of work with a lot of different arms and legs and brands and offerings. And at one end of that is really helping people build their brand and their online presence and get their message out into the world.
Okay, very nice. So do you see also do you help them with digital marketing?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, and then content and copywriting. Do you do the blogs?
Yeah, so we'll actually do everything on that particular website, the design business site. We primarily focus on brand strategy and website design, but once someone becomes a client with us, we're able to help with everything. We're a boutique agency and we really love doing a full service approach. And so we can help them in any way that they need, because that's what my background is in. And that's what I've had a lot of experience with over the years, growing my own business.
Mhm.
And we stay on top of, what are the social media trends and what is working in online marketing? And are we at a tipping point or a saturation point? And how can we innovate and do things differently? So
Mhm.
I love being full service, whether it's growth and healing or finding your passion and purpose or putting yourself out into the world online. We take
Mhm.
a holistic approach.
Okay, and these are some of your previous clients, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Also, I like to know what do you see with current with COVID? What has changed with your strategy?
It's really interesting, actually. I love that you asked that. So before COVID, the
Mhm.
trend was becoming, people were actually getting tired of being online. We wanted to see more in-person live experiences. So not just like networking or being together in person, but we were craving experience out in the real world with other humans.
Mhm.
And also more of a trend towards tangible. So we want to be able to hold things in our hand again. And
Mhm.
so it's been interesting to watch as we began tipping in that direction.
Mhm.
COVID forced us all to stay home and to go back online. And so the whole exploration and innovation with being online has been interesting to watch, people doing their events. And how do we have that experiential thing we've been craving and be with other people when we're forced to be online? And so I would say the trend is going to very strongly bounce back towards, as we start getting vaccinated, as the virus starts to disappear or become integrated into our life in a way that is less threatening, people are going to really want that in-person experience again, which doesn't mean that online will go away. It never will. But we are going to want more experiences in the real world with other people, as well as like tangible things. So I think having social media, having online programs, all of this this amazing show that you're doing, all of this still has its place, but how can we start bringing in a tangible, tactical element to it? Like, could you mail people things as part of your marketing for the show? That's going to be really important.
Hmm. No, that's true. And it's going to be a little bit time before this
Yep.
will go away. I mean, last pandemic took 5 years before, the people kind of really go back to.
Yep.
And I would say people have short-term memory, so they'll forget
Yep.
once, and then they will go back to. But that's how human nature is.
Yep.
It kind of no matter what is a pandemic or whatever is the tragedy, it kind of feels it, of course, as sadness and all that. But later on, there are new memories made and new things. But that's how we always survived, right?
Yep. And we're all going to have little ticks, right? Like some of us are going to still obsessively use sanitizer, and it might feel weird for a little while for some people to be close in person again. And I always wonder, kids wearing a mask, it's not as strange to them, even though it's brand new. And it'll be interesting to see how it influences our social tendencies subconsciously.
Subconsciously, and also, the kids, really young kids, they were locked, for 1 year. I have a nephew, and he was locked in for 1 year.
Yeah.
He could not go out at all. And when he saw human race outside, now he doesn't want to come back. So yeah, that's exactly things happen.
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for kids. They just had a difficult time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's difficult for us too, for adults, but we understand and we have some logic. But for them to tell
Exactly.
them, it's very hard. I feel sorry for them,
Yeah.
really. That is tough. I don't know what implication it'll have later on in life and so forth. Uh, Only time will tell. And I think other thing you touched a little bit and was very interesting to hear, was that you said there was frequency and I love it. I think great. You mentioned that, and that's very important. So tell me a little bit, how was that experience for you, figuring
Yeah. It's been really powerful for me. I really want to study more about physics and the science of it because I feel like it'll be easier for people to understand it. Like for me, it's very intuitive and natural to say, oh, of course, that makes perfect sense. And I have experimented with that in my life and been able to create really amazing things because of my understanding of it. And I think for a lot of people, they need to know the science of it. And what we know is that we live in a vibrational universe. Everything has a certain frequency, and energy is everything, and everything is energy. And when we really understand that it's not like a fake it till you make it kind of thing, because fake it till you make it is more external and doing. And so that can be great in certain areas of our life and healing and growth. But to really create true transformation rapidly in our life, if
it?
we can embody a different way of being, which is like full body, energetic, how I think and believe and act and move through and engage with the world, that means that we're operating at a different frequency. And because it's a frequency based universe, now we're repelling certain things while attracting others. And again, the world reconfigures around to match the frequency that we put out. So, using relationships as an example, if I'm constantly attracting a certain type of partner, a part of that is my trauma and subconscious stuff and things I need to heal, and part of that is the way that I carry myself through the world, and the frequency at which I operate allows me to only really see and engage with and attract certain things. When I up level and I shift and I start being the person who would have the type of partnership that I want, and I move through the world in its entirety, like in every way that I can operate as that person, I'm now at a different frequency. I'm no longer seeing or being attracted to or attracting those lower level people. And suddenly, like you open up a whole new layer of awareness and consciousness, and you're able to engage with different things that before you would have just missed. And so that's one way. There's a lot to it, and I know we don't have enough time to go into it, but
Mm.
it's very much the frequency at which we operate gets reflected back to us. And so even when we're trying to create things and we're kind of getting wishy-washy results, oftentimes that's because we're wobbly in our energy and our own frequency. Like we're holding the next level me and the things that I want, and we're dropping back into the old out of fear and doubt. And that creates the wishy-washy results that we see. And so it's really fun to just experiment and play with. It's made a huge difference in my life and work.
And that's true. And, when you mentioned the reason I picked that, and I was saying that because I also feel that. So, but it's very important. A lot of people ask that how can we have, different things and all that is because a human brain actually can pick up so many things which is very weird, but it's like magnet, and it magnet
Yep.
can attract good and bad too, but it's the good energy is super, if you get it. But unfortunately also it can be negative too, and
Yep.
because it's what you attract. But if you remain positive and if you keep working on that, you absolutely right. You are going to not only attract other good frequencies and higher and better and better and better, but first it should come from inside. That
Yep.
first have hope. So once people have hope and then believe, good things will happen. Those
Yeah.
are very important things. Once you do that, good things really start happening. Yeah, I think my grand parents and all, they always said think positive and remain positive. There was a reason for that, and I think now we know science also. So it's same thing
Yeah.
is that you're right. Your senses when in brain is that's how the brain is wired. Uh, and we have seen if we are sad or depressed, all the senses we cannot listen what is music, we cannot see who is outside, we cannot realize what colors are there, we cannot have fragrance, we every
Yeah.
sense is shut. So then how can you attract good things, how can you even feel uh,
Yeah.
so
I would
that's
love to add to that too. I think it's really important. It's not about bypassing. There's a lot of spiritual bypassing in the manifestation world. Like, feel your feelings if you're depressed or sad for a certain reason, but do it in a productive way, which means we don't stew, we don't stuff it down, we don't tell stories about it. We just feel the raw emotion so that we're able to cleanly get back to gratitude, which is one of the quickest ways to raise our frequency and positivity without like letting all the negative contractive stuff fester.
That is true. And the good thing is, I always tell everyone is to make sure first believe it. If you don't believe it, problem is that, then you don't see it. Unfortunately, you're just closing your eyes. You don't even have.
Yeah.
You tried, absolutely right about what you have experienced. And I think that shows what you're telling me exactly shows what you have gone through and what changes it made to your thought. And so congratulations on that, that
Thank
you
you.
you not only overcome, and now you're helping so many people with your lifestyle coaching too. So tell me a little bit about that. I know we talked a little bit about business. Do you do also on lifestyle coaching?
I do, yes, and I bring in, certain forms of energy work and process work, and I do that because just like I said, we're conditioned to stuff our emotions down, and we're terrified to feel, and I don't really believe there are any negative emotions, there's expansive and contractive, and a lot of my work is helping people get to the root of any unresolved grief and trauma, any unexpressed anything. That could be feelings, that could be thoughts, creativity, because we spend so much of our life stuffing because we feel like we have to fit roles and we have to move through these systems and they expect certain things of us. And so a lot of the work is processing out on a cellular level everything that has been stored that is metastasizing, that's making us sick, that's giving us anxiety. And I work a lot with how to make the impossible happen and the subconscious pieces, and let's set your vision and goals and how do you move towards them. But we can't really do that if we're not working on that deeper level. So that's a huge part of my work.
Okay, well, very, very nice, very nice. So, any final thoughts you would like to share with my audience?
Yeah, I always end with context and discernment are two of my favorite words because I've shared some of my experience and what's worked for me and what I feel to be true about how all of this stuff works, and as have you.
Mm,
And we have to take context into consideration. Context is king. That comes from me and my experience in certain situations. And discernment is really being in tune with your truth and who you are and your intuition, and being able to say, wow, that sounds really interesting. I think there's something there for me. And I get why that works for you, but I don't think that's the path for me. Because where we go wrong with a lot of this personal growth and healing work and things that we share in spaces like this is, a lot of people hear it as this is law, and this is what works, and this is what's right, and there's no one right path to healing and growth and living your purpose. So context, what's your situation? Who are you as a person? What have you been through? What are you trying to create? And discernment, trust yourself to know what's right for you.
And that is very important too. And I put your website for people to check out your
Yeah.
website, and so they can definitely know that. And it's very important. That's true. What we are discussing might not be all, relevant to someone. Might be some, uh, but your individual results and everything depends on. We are all unique. So everybody has a unique genetic makeup. Not only disease, but also effects of medication and effects of therapy and effects of everything is very unique. Of course, some things might work, but some general principle will still work, and those we were trying to emphasize some of
Yeah.
those. And thank you for coming. And it's pleasure. I think is yeah, I can see, and I really now I think I can say I had two guests talk about quarter life. So, and so okay, thank you, and
Thank you.
take care. Stay safe. Okay.